everybody.
Yeah, of course.
What do you think?
Yeah, of course.
Good idea.
Well, let's do it. I can pack everybody in that room.
No, people just a couple hours. Like
Yeah.
a window of hours. Like 6 to 4 or 6 to 9, 3-hour window.
Yeah, it's got to be after hours at the studio because I can't have people in.
Exactly, but you know what I'm saying. We'll figure it out.
Listen, we'll do something.
Yeah, I get the aerial shots exactly. Oh, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
That's a great t-shirt. He might need to
let him out.
Yeah. Are we ready? Let's go. All
right. Oh, Adam, watch out.
Nice. Wow, you got it. I don't think he's happy. Is he happy?
Congratulations, sir. Hey, Mazza.
Hey, good to see you. I don't see you. I'm doing great. I show my face now, too.
Oh, yeah, I love it. I love it. It's a beauty.
Good morning, Bob.
Hey.
You gotta give us some rumble.
This is me. What's up? Go get
There we go. All right. Welcome to MazzaMedia here on MazzaMedia, and we got a show for you today. This is the Turtleboy Fundraiser going on here, and also we have I'm going to do my top 25 movies of all time during this whole thing today. That's what I want to talk about. I got Michael Morsy stuff to discuss, but that's looking like either I'm going to do a show tomorrow or I might appear on another show tomorrow. So we're going to see what ends up happening there. Not sure yet, but the plan is to talk about Michael Morsy and all the emails that are going on today. I saw the emails coming out today. I'm like, oh, no. I was hoping for like a relaxed day. All of a sudden, I'm all over Twitter today, and I just see, especially Aiden's posts, like tweet after tweet. I'm like, oh, no, it's all coming down. I watched The Glare, quite a bit of his show today, and I watched quite a bit of Nurse Kim just before this. So it's a heck of a day for shows here on Saturday. The Glare, Nurse Kim, myself, and then Aiden Carney. It looks like Aiden's actually going on at 10 o'clock tonight instead of 9. So I know he's got a lot A lot to talk about for sure with Morsy and Susan. I believe her name's Susan Hendricks. That story that he broke recently is pretty wild. So here's the plan of attack for this show. It's a fundraiser. It's a fundraiser for Turtleboy. This is going to basically be where you're going to go to the link pinned at the top of your screen, at the top of your chat. Also, in the description of this video, that link is there as well. That's right. Just Machado was on this morning. Brian LTL was on this morning. That's right. A lot of people have been on this morning. My fan is going up a notch to number 3 on my cooling tower that I got. I'm already sweating bullets in this shirt. But yeah, it's been a great day of shows. And again, today's going to be about raising money for Aiden Carney any way we can. So his defense link is pinned to the top of the chat. I'm going to have you guys go there today to make your donations. Make sure you write Mazza in that as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to every so often do an update. So I'm going to basically talk about movies for a while, and then I'm going to take a break, and that's going to consist of tallying the latest total of donations and announcing the latest numbers. So basically every 5 movies. So we're going to do 1 through 5, do a tally, and so forth and so on. Probably about 4 counts throughout this particular show. Throughout the show, I'm going to be using a PowerPoint presentation that I put together last week. And this presentation is going to have a highlight of all the movies I'm going to be talking about. And it's going to have information on where you can go to make that donation. So again, the link is pinned to the top of the chat, and it is in the description. So that is how this is going to go. Before we get into this, let's just give some people a few minutes to make their way in here. And Glenn Massouz is here. Adam Teeper's here. I had a great show last weekend in LTL studio. Last Sunday, we had a live studio show that Brian hosted. He had me on as a guest or co-host. We had about 20, 25 people packed in that room, including Todd McGee and Adam Teeper, among so many other great people, dedicated fans of Karen Reed, followers of LTL. It was a great time. It was awesome. I broke my diet for a couple of days last week, so I was having pizza. I actually didn't have the pizza all night, and then there was leftovers, and Brian said, hey, bring this home. I said, maybe I'll give the pizza to my neighbors. Then when I got home, I was just so hungry. I ended up having 4 slices, broke my diet up through Thursday, and that was that. So Aiden Carney, as we all know, has Dennis Sweeney. What's going on, my man? Good to see you. As we know, Aiden Kearney has been the ultimate frontlines person in terms of raising awareness for Karen Reed, and even was one of the initial people to do a fundraiser for her and raise funds for her. And Aiden, as we know, put a lot on the line here, where journalism often crossed the line into it affecting his personal life, where a job ultimately had circumstances that pertained to his freedom and his ability to spend time with his own children and spend time in the real world outside of the prison jail facility. This was a situation that was very serious and very dire. And for one of the first times ever, we saw the powers that be, in a lot of ways, use the laws to basically make a case against Aiden in a way that would get him thrown into jail. And we saw his initial arrest in October of 2023, which is crazy to think it's almost been 2 years. And then we ultimately saw what happened in December of 2023, where they basically hauled him off in cuffs in the Norfolk County van off the jail for 60 days, just a day or two after Christmas, and I believe on his birthday as well, which was, to be honest with all of you, and I think most of you agree, this is probably the most shocking moment of this entire Karen Reed saga, considering, what had happened, that basically here's a guy fighting for freedom and the powers that be. So it itches in my eyes here. Sorry, one sec. Sorry, those are not tears. December 26th, Sue says. And then this had, we had seen Aiden basically hauled off for 60 days. And this ultimately was shocking because a lot of us, including Mike from the Young Jerks and others, thought, who is next? you know, and of course the anti-Karen Reed folks took liberty by saying, you're all next. You're all next. The Young Jerks is next, and Microdots is next, and the Glare is next, and Mazza and Brian LTL and all these other folks were all next. And yeah, they did arrest him at the kids' bus stop. The kids actually had seen him taken into custody, basically. It was or cuffed up at least before they took him in his house. And it was a wild set of circumstances. But for me, this ultimately validated, right, the Canton Nine, Richie Schiffer, a whole host of other people ended up getting docked with charges. Actually, the Canton Nine were charged with witness intimidation. Was one of the first things to ever take place. In the fall, I think it was September or October, somewhere around there. Then 30 days later, they all get hit with charges. It was a wild set of circumstances, and ultimately Aiden hung in there. He could have given up, he could have surrendered, he could have backed down, but you know, he continued forth with his shows. He continued on with raising awareness. He continued on with doing everything he could do to continue this story forward. And that continued with shows, articles, appearing on various shows as well. And then, of course, all while fighting off his own charges against him and having to take on that. So this has been, you know, for him, a wild set of circumstances. But again, someone that refused to back down, refused to run away. And for all of us, you know, not only did we not back away, but we all stayed in there and all continued the fight and all continued to raise awareness for Karen, as well as Aiden, and raised over $1 million for Karen Reed. And at this time, we've raised $236,000 for Aiden, with a goal of $300,000 as of this exact moment. And I'm already starting to see the Mazza donations coming in already. I'll get the first count in later, but thank you. It's a hot day out there for sure. I spent most of the day indoors, but I'm ready to do this show. Yeah, I always got the solo cup. I'm always ready to go with that. So here we go. It's Saturday night. It's showtime. Share this stream. Raise awareness that this show is live right now, so we can raise as much money for Aiden as possible tonight and help him, because as we all know, you know, he stuck his neck out for Karen. Ultimately, you know, the powers that be hammered him and placed him in this situation with many, many charges. They're not dropping these charges. Aiden's next court date, I believe, is on Wednesday, the 13th in Dedham. So here we go again. And he's got great attorneys. Someone said to me, why do we need to continue to raise money for Aiden for? Well, I mean, he's got two attorneys. You know, this is not cheap. You got Tim Bradle to pay. You got attorney Mark Betterow to pay. You got a lot of charges, a lot of hours. And this is going to cost money. You know, this is a very expensive case. And unfortunately, you know, he's going to have to spend money on this as well as we continue forth here. So here we go. So the fundraiser's already begun now. If you guys can, so 2 p.m. in Dedham on August 13th. Here we go. Aiden's next court appearance, and about 15 charges out there right now as well. So we are rocking and rolling into this show right now, and we are going to start off with news as it pertains to Michael Morsy, and that's that his emails have been dumped, and this is now something that's going to be dissected for the next couple of days. I'm going to, like I said earlier, either do a show on this tomorrow or appear on a show about this tomorrow. If not, then Monday or Tuesday, and get talking about this. But I read a lot about this, and it, like, again, getting back to Aiden, they were definitely monitoring Aiden. They were definitely all over him and definitely trying to shut him up and shut him down any way they possibly could. So here we go. Let's get going with the fundraiser here now with the slides. All right, here we go. I love you too. Thank you, Casey. All right, share screen. All right, let's go to my PowerPoint presentation, and there we go. Let's go to that view. There we go. So it took a while to get this thing going. I actually just created this slide before we started the show. So today's show, of course, is the Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser. The Defense Fund link is pinned at the top of the chat. It's also in the description please write Mazza in your donation total. So please go ahead and do that. Sue says she's going to take care of the number totaling today. Thank you so much. I'll keep my own total too. I like to kind of do my math, but definitely keep track of it. And yeah, I got a slideshow presentation for today, and this should be fun. So it's going to be a bit more of a fun show. Instead of talking about the serious matters, but again, it's going to have a serious outcome, which means raising money for Aiden Carney right now in his defense fund. So again, that link is pinned to the top of your chat. It's also in the description. We also have Cherry, Suze, and other folks plastering that link in the comments section for you guys to click on and continue forward. So again, this is all about helping out Aiden today. I think I'm not sure if this is the first defense fundraiser I've done for Aiden or not. I don't know. But I think personally, I've been so focused on Karen Reed that now my mind's starting to kind of transition now and get more focused on what Aiden's going through. And again, I think it's important to back him up. He stood there and fought for Karen. And ultimately, we got to back him up. He's a teammate. He's a fellow soldier. Leave no man behind, as they say. So that's my attitude about this. So we'll help out Aiden. Karen Reed's free. Karen Reed's free, and she's fighting one civil suit and is probably getting ready to file a whole bunch of them. So here we go. So, all right, let's get this started. My top 25 movies. Here we go. So this is my wonderful opening slide here. And again, all night long, the Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser notation is going to be at the top of the stream. Brian, what's going on, man? Good to see you. I didn't cut the grass today. What's funny is I was pondering cutting the grass today. I cut the grass 2 weeks ago, and the grass is not growing back that fast anymore. So I don't really need to cut it today. So I can cut it tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday, I'm thinking. So we'll figure it out. I know I'm grilling tomorrow. Grilled chicken, shrimp, that is for sure. And there we go. So, all right. So when I was making this slide, I realized I had to mind my imagery where I'm at, located on the screen here during the whole show, and then leave enough room for the PowerPoint slide like this, like that. This is the view I want. All right. So again, that message about Turtleboy's Defense Fundraiser is going to be at the top of it all night long. We're going to do, my grass is actually all green, Darcy, which is great. It's perfectly green. It looks absolutely beautiful. It's shiny. It's like the green, just like you see in the Turtleboy Defense text right there. Everything's looking good. I mowed the lawn 2 weekends ago. I did the weed whacking last weekend. I did some chainsawing last weekend too. I got some more stuff to take care of, but I'll clean up a lot more stuff in the fall when I need to. So summer's almost over. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's August 9th. A year ago, a lot of us were in Dedham. It was pink shirts versus blue shirts in Dedham last year. It was the world's biggest abortion protest. To some people that had no clue what was going on. If they were driving down the street, they would have been, what's this? They would have no clue it was a pro-Karen Reed versus anti-Karen Reed protest. It was just pink shirts and blue shirts, and people were like, man, this must be about abortion or something, because they're chanting justice for JJ all over. I heard him say justice for JJ, and that was kind of the big joke. So my cat's a dude. My cat's a dude. He's actually in the room right now. He knows I close the door when I do a show, and he is right behind my television as we speak right now, hiding. He's been sleeping back there for about the last month during the daytime. So all that. So here we are. MazzaMedia's top 25 favorite movies of all time, presented in chronological. Cherry's comment right now. It threw me right off, Cherry, when you wrote that. It is presented in chronological order. Now, we did a Karen Reed fundraiser similar to this last year, before Christmas, obviously. We did a Jody's in the house. What's going on? Rubicon, how you doing? We did a top 20 or top 25 my favorite Christmas movies. All that last year. It was very successful. We were happy to raise money, and we're looking forward to doing that again today for Mr. Media, or Mr. Turtleboy, or Turtle Man, as the wacky Wendy Murphy likes to say. So again, my top 25 favorite movies of all time, presented in chronological order. So here we go. This is who's ready for number one? All right, number one here we go. There you go. Number one, look at that presentation. And again, you got the Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser information. It's going to be there all night. Movie number one, 1973. We're starting about 52 years ago. We got Enter the Dragon, starring Bruce Lee, which is the ultimate martial arts movie ever made. There's no question about it. There's been a lot of great martial arts movies, but this one is the absolute best. There's never been such great. Now the thing about movies too, like you look at The Matrix, you look at John Wick, all great, but there's a lot of special effects. There's a lot of, stunt cords. Yeah, Cherry's already lost. Cherry, there's not going to be a lot of chick flicks, if any. What if any chick flicks will be on this list? Zero is my answer. What if any? So no, but this, this is what I like about old-fashioned movies is the lack of special effects. And it was all just practical martial arts, which is just basically people with actual martial arts skill, kicking butt. And not only was this his first domestic big budget movie, Glares in the House, but this was also his first American movie. Every movie he ever made was actually based out of China. And this was really the beginning of his a run in the United States domestically. And he had been on the Green Hornet before he went back to Hong Kong to make movies with Golden Harvest. And he has the movie ever made me cry? Yes. Miracle made me cry. Definitely Miracle. I don't cry that often. If I do, it's rare, and it's usually going to be something special. But yeah, no, I'm joking. But yes, I thought that this was, just as ultimate movie for Bruce Lee, because again, it had the big budget. Like you watch a lot of his movies that were in Hong Kong, they're lower budget. They're all dubbed. This was the only movie he ever made that was not dubbed. And it was just awesome. And it had great villains. You had Bolo, who was he was actually the villain in Bloodsport. Was in this. You had O'Hara, who Bruce Lee famously super kicked into a whole crowd of people after he shattered a couple bottles. But the martial arts was great in this. It was one-on-one, but it was also Bruce Lee versus endless people, constantly in a brawl. There was a massive brawl at the end of this particular movie, which is all the villains, henchmen versus Bruce Lee and about 3 other people. And, then all the prisoners that got freed. It was just this all-out brawl. And awesome stuff. Great movie. The nunchuck skills demonstrated here, the weapons skills, just unbelievable. And it's crazy because Bruce Lee ultimately, died before this movie was ever released. And that was it for him. He was just getting started. And basically he was already dead before his big rise to fame kicked in, which is absolute madness, because there's no telling what movies he would have made, and there's no telling how long his career would have spanned throughout his whole life. And it's just like I said, this was just the beginning for him, and it was really tragic. It was similar to Heath Ledger dying before the release of The Dark Knight, and it was really, really too bad that this happened, and then he passed away, because again, he was an all-time action star with one movie, which can't be said about many people in Hollywood, which is basically means it's an absolute rarity. And that's really all there is to be said about it. It's really tragic. He inspired me and so many people. All the martial arts movies that came out, a lot of martial arts movies that we watch, guys like Chuck Norris, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, all those actors rose to fame because, of Bruce Lee. And Hollywood wanted to get that next person that could be like Bruce Lee. And so many people manifested movie careers off of this. Even guys like Jason Statham, even Keanu Reeves' career with John Wick, The Matrix, so much martial arts there. Jet Li, Mary B just said, Jackie Chan, so many great martial artists. And Jackie Chan was actually in this movie. He was actually in this very scene you're seeing right here. He shows up very briefly, and then gets his neck snapped and gets killed. Right. And then someone said, how did he die? He died because his brain swelled. was what ended up happening. So he basically suffered an injury at one point, weightlifting, and then his brain swelled, and then basically took like a woman gave him a drug, like ibuprofen or Tylenol. His brain overswelled, then he just dropped dead. And that's pretty much all. Because I think he was doing squats or something, and he fell and collapsed, and then down he went, and then that was pretty much the end of it for him. It was very tragic. Very tragic ending. All right, so let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is 1980. We're moving 7 years into the future here, and Superman just came out again this summer, which was a very good movie in my opinion. I love the new Superman movie, and I loved this Superman movie the most of all of them, actually. This is my favorite Superman movie of all time, and it is, for me, I thought that Christopher Reeve and Superman, again, looking at the history of movies, Bruce Lee and martial arts, the Superman movies with Christopher Reeve, these were movies that really got, like Batman in the 60s, George Reeves' Superman show, so the original. I actually, the theatrical cut is actually my favorite. I do like the Donner cut as well, but I like the original cut, primarily because it's the one I always watched growing up, and the Donner cut I never saw till the DVD came out at some point in the 2000s, the first decade of the year. And I like Man of Steel. I like Batman versus Superman. I love the original Superman. I love the new Superman. Superman Returns, Superman 3, Superman 4, meh. They're all okay. But Superman 2 is my favorite of all of them. I just think that, for me, like I said, I've heard the Glare say this before on his show. Christopher Reeve is the ultimate Superman. No disrespect to George Reeve, Henry Cavill, or the new one, the new Superman. But I think that Christopher Reeve, to me, is the definitive Superman for a lot of reasons. Number one, he was the Superman of my childhood. Number two, he was the Superman basically for all of us for 20 years until Brandon Routh came out. And then Brandon Routh was a one-time Superman, and then that was pretty much it. So I feel that, I used to watch Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman. I used to watch that a lot when I was a kid. My dad hated it. He's like, "Why do you watch this show?" And I'm like, "Well, it's Superman. It's Superman." But that's how it's going. So, but no, I definitely like this movie a lot. I like the original. I do, and honestly, I think they're pretty close. I think probably the story dynamic of the first one is better, but I feel that this one, what I like more about this one is this one has, like the first movie was more about Superman saving the day from common things, vehicular accidents, buses, Lois Lane getting hit by nukes, and the caves falling on, the ground falling on her, reversing the world, battling Gene Hackman and Kryptonite. It was great because of that. But I think that with this one, what I like so much was that for the first time ever on the big screen, you're seeing superheroes versus supervillains that possess equal power. And not only that, he's facing 3 supervillains that all have the same exact powers as he does. And this showdown in the streets at the time was basically what you saw in the first Avengers movie in 2012, which was an all-out battle. And this scene was, for its time, absolutely incredible and was one of the ultimate action scenes. Yeah, the Kryptonite scene in the first Superman is an all-timer. The scene used to bother me when they put the Kryptonite on him and throw him in the pool. Then Miss Tessmacher saves him. Then the nukes go off, but then he's too late. Then he's going to reverse the world. It's all great. It's all great. The first two are neck and neck. They really are. I think they both have their reason to be better than the other. But I feel like, for me, the reason why I picked this one is just because of all the action. There's just so much more battling in the streets. And then the fact that Superman really can't save the day in Metropolis. He has to flee. Everyone thinks he gives up. He quits. Superman, don't leave us. Oh, Superman gave up. All the kids in the street. And, oh, man, Superman's a coward. And everyone thinks that. But really, Superman got to the point where he realized, look, the only thing that's happening here is I'm battling these people to no end, the villains, Zod, Ursa, and Non, to no end. And all that's happening is that they're basically attacking innocent civilians left and right in this battle. And all that's happening is he's trying to fight these people plus protect innocent people at the same time. It was chaos, and it was endangering people's lives. He had to flee Metropolis and take them to the Fortress of Solitude because he knew one thing. There was a way to reverse his powers because he did that earlier in the movie. And there was a way to basically get them to lose their own powers, and that was basically what it was. So that's what happened, which was great. So he ended up getting them to the Fortress of Solitude, tricked them. They lost their powers. They end up killing all three of them. They saved the day. Superman and Lois hug. The world is safe again, thanks to you, Superman. You know, all that stuff happens. But it's great. This was a great movie. This was always on all the time when I grew up. I watched this every single time it was on. It was one of my favorite movies. And no doubt this belongs in my top 25 movies of all time. Before we get to the number 3 movie out of 25, the Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser link is pinned to the top of the chat. Please write Mazza in your donation comment so we can count this thing. We're going to do a little tally here after the 5th movie. But now we're going to move to the 3rd movie of all time. You know what's funny is even though I made this whole list, I can't even remember what movies I put and in what order. So let's go to number 3. Rocky 3. Ladies and gentlemen, Rocky 3. This is my favorite Rocky movie of all time. This is also one of my favorite movies of all time, without question. Many people debate what is the greatest Rocky movie of all time. Just the other day, the Glare himself was on X talking about how Rocky VI's fight was underestimated, and he is completely correct. Rocky VI is also completely underrated. Now, I love every single Rocky movie, all of them. Don't get me wrong. Even the Glare loves this movie because look at the name of his dog, Clubber, literally named after Mr. T in this movie. But I got to say Rocky 3 is my favorite for a lot of different reasons. Number 1, considering the time frame I was born, I was not born when Rocky 1 and 2 came out. I was really not even born when Rocky 3 came out. And I was too young when Rocky 4 came out, and I barely even remember Rocky 5 coming out. But the first 4 movies in the series are all perfect. Rocky 1, 2, 3, and 4, they're all great. They're all interchangeable. The Glare says Rocky 4 is his favorite. Some people say 1 and 2. The first 4 are all great. Rocky 6 is great. The Creed movies are all great. It's just Rocky 5. Rocky 5 is the movie in this series that does not fit. But for me, Rocky 3 is my favorite for a lot of reasons. Number 1, Rocky 3 is the one that it used to be on my house the most. You know, I used to always see that one on TV. And for me, when I was really young, the first and second one were a little dry when I was young. When I got older, I liked the first and second ones a lot more. But when I was really young, the first and second one were a little dry. The third and fourth one had the most juice, the most adrenaline, the most packed 80s action to it. And this is why I like this one the most, too, because it almost feels like a live-action cartoon. It's a bunch of dudes in this movie that are juiced up on steroids, that are larger than life. You have Stallone in his prime. He's fighting Mr. T. He fights Hulk Hogan, the late, great Hulk Hogan, who just recently passed away. Really, all of pro wrestling that we know it as of this day was basically founded in this movie. When Hulk Hogan did this movie, got fired by WWF, and then only rehired by Vince McMahon Sr.'s son, Vince McMahon Jr., the Vince McMahon you guys know. And this movie was just great. Now, the Eye of the Tiger song was in this. There was no song in any Rocky movie that was ever more popular. And Rocky just absolutely dominates at the beginning of this movie. He's beating one opponent after another during the opening intro. The Eye of the Tiger theme song is blasting. It's just the most awesome movie. And then Mr. T's in the crowd, and he's like, man, I could beat this Balboa. This guy's a paper champ or whatever, you know, and it was great. It was just amazing entertainment because you had a villain like Mr. T that was this big, bad George Foreman, Joe Frazier type of villain that if Mama Said Knock You Out, this is the song of Mama Said Knock You Out. What's crazy is this guy was basically Mike Tyson before Mike Tyson ever made it into the big leagues of boxing in real life, which is crazy. But this movie showed us something that we don't really see in a lot of movies, is that the villain definitively and decisively defeats Rocky in this movie. This is the only time ever in any Rocky movie where Rocky gets beaten definitively. He lost 3 times in the Rocky series. He lost to Apollo Creed in the first movie, but went the distance. He went the distance against Mason the Lion Dixon in Rocky Balboa, Rocky 6, and went the distance. But this is the only movie in which Rocky Balboa gets beaten to death and knocked out and loses his championship. And honestly, you don't even think Rocky's going to have a chance to beat this guy later in the movie. And it's up to Apollo Creed to basically help him get the eye of the tiger back and basically turn him from a Rocky can barely move, no athleticism fighter, stone-shoed fighter into someone that can move around the ring with a level of fitness that Rocky's never showcased before. And it's ultimately this movie that gives Rocky the skills and abilities that he's going to need to not only defeat Mr. T at the end of this movie, but defeat Ivan Drago in the next movie. Because Rocky doesn't really train or learn anything new in the fourth one. He just trains himself up. Let's see. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Rocky 3. But the ending was great. The Glare the other day said, what's the, he thought, I forgot what 2 movies he said. I think he said Rocky 6 was the best fight. I don't disagree with that, but I think it's just a little bit lower in I think for me, or maybe he said Rocky 4 or Rocky 6. For me, Rocky 3's fight at the end is my favorite fight for one reason. The way Mr. T beats up Rocky in the first round, but the way Rocky kind of rallies in the second round, and then in the third round, the way Rocky just goes all out with just endless punches to Mr. T, just wears him down and goes crazy. It was just awesome. It was just so awesome. This movie was just so awesome. It's one of the most rewatchable movies of all time. And Rocky 6, yeah, I'd say like Rocky 6, Rocky 4, and the end of Rocky 3, and Rocky 2. Those are my top 4 Rocky fights, and they're all close. But I think what I like about the third one so much is it doesn't go the distance. Rocky just goes basically in an all-out sprint on Clubber Lang and then just knocks him down, takes back his title, and that's all she wrote. We are conducting a Turtleboy fundraiser today, and the link, as you see there on the screen in green, the Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser is the purpose of the show today. The Defense Fund link is pinned at the top of the chat. Please write Mazza in your donation comment, and we'll get that counted. Again, go to Turtleboy's link, and we will take a look at that and get that tally in just a little bit. Number 4, we're sticking with Sylvester Stallone here, ladies and gentlemen. This is another one of my favorite movies of all time. They drew First Blood, not Rambo. So John Rambo, Stallone had a great career. The Rocky series and the Rambo series. I think in my opinion, there was only 3 great Rambo movies. But I did not like the last one, and I did not like the third one. The third one was okay. The last one, Last Blood, was all right. But this one is incredible. Now, the plot line here might be a little familiar to some of you. Have you guys ever heard of small town cops that are assholes, that push people around, that try to make the rules? I do like the last one, but I didn't think it was as great. That cops that make their own rules, cops that do whatever they want, they push around people. They're small town cops. They're all, it's their town. Have you guys ever heard of any towns like that before that are like this, where they push people around, and they don't like when people stand their ground, and when people stand their ground, they don't like that either, and they try to do anything they can to stop them. Has anybody, show of hands, has anybody ever heard of any small town that's similar to the movie in First Blood that is like this? A show of hands, please. Okay, so basically in this movie, oh man, I thought about this particular dialogue while I was out for a walk the other day. I think it was yesterday. I was thinking about this particular movie, and I was trying to think about how to introduce it, and I thought about that, saying what I just said on the show. But yes, this is a great movie. This is a movie about a Vietnam vet who, Vietnam vets, as we know, they were given a raw deal. They fought a war a lot of people didn't want to fight, didn't want to partake in. And then at the same time, this war ended up being totally disastrous for the soldiers that ended up surviving it. If they were fortunate enough to survive. And a lot of them are disgruntled. A lot of them had, PTSD before it was even diagnosed. And this is really a PTSD movie. It really is. A lot of soldiers come back from wars that are even successful wars that are, they might have had a relatively, relatively an experience that's not as outlandish as other soldiers have had. And, a lot of them still walk away with PTSD because they do see a lot of things, Here, Rambo was, what sets the stage of this movie, quite honestly, is when Rambo is out for a walk, he's basically, he's not a grifter. He's not a grifter like a YouTube grifter. He's a drifter, basically, drifting town to town and basically trying to track down one of his own friends, Delmore Barry, who was a Vietnam vet. And, a lot of his fellow soldiers died. Agent Orange killed a lot of Vietnam soldiers. And he, at the very beginning of the movie, he visits his old friend Delmore Barry and learns from his mother that he's dead. And from that point, I think that a lot more PTSD and disgruntledness sets in. And Rambo is trying to find his place in life and feels definitely as an outsider. And then wanders into a town called Hope. And this town is not so friendly and is filled with a lot of cops that have no respect for Vietnam veterans. And he ends up getting very much disrespected by this officer. And the officer won't let him even eat in the town. Which is a huge issue for me. I think any human being will agree that anybody should be able to eat anywhere they want, so long as they're appropriate in terms of behavior and not causing trouble. There should be no reason why someone can't eat at any restaurant they want. So the ultimate scenario here is that Rambo is pushed around by this officer, and he doesn't let him eat in the town. He drops him off at the edge of town, after giving him a hard time. We don't want people like you. We don't like elements like you, so forth and so on. So he drops Rambo off at the edge of town. The officer turns around, and this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I'm not even kidding. Like, this is in my top 10. I love this movie so much. So Rambo decides, you know what? Screw this. I don't care what this guy says. I'm going back into your town, and I'm getting something to eat. Of course, the officer notices it in his rearview mirror, stops the car, gets out, places Rambo under arrest and all that, and then takes Rambo down to the police station. Now, in movie history, this has never happened, and in real life, this has never happened. But Rambo pulls off something in this movie that is absolutely unprecedented. Never before has someone been arrested outside the walls of a police station, taken to the police station to be basically processed, violently broken out of the police station by beating the living crap out of every officer in the police station, escaping the police station, the police having to go on a manhunt, including mobilizing the state police and the National Guard, then escaping the town, then breaking back into the town with a National Guard vehicle, then basically hijacking the entire town with an M60 machine gun, which is the machine gun you're seeing in his hands on that movie poster, taking over the entire town, blowing up gas stations, breaking into ammunition stores, basically blowing up trucks, doing all this stuff, basically taking the fight back to the police station. So he gets arrested, breaks out of the police station, breaks back into the town, breaks back into the police station, takes out the sheriff. He ends up surviving. Then is taken into custody inside of the police station and taken out of the police station so he then can be taken into military custody. This has never happened before in any movie ever. No movie character has ever pulled off something like that, okay? Broken out of a police station, broken back into a police station, surrendering in a police station, and then taken into custody so he can be taken to basically a maximum security prison where we find him in the beginning of the second movie. But this is the ultimate action movie. Plenty of action, plenty of weapons, plenty of survival skills. They show off his Green Beret skills. The way they hunt him down, but he evades them all. Him in caves, him jumping off cliffs, him using sticks as weapons, setting up traps, booby traps, just everything known to man. How he was killing a boar or whatever it was so he can eat. this was just the ultimate movie. First Blood's definitely in my top 25 movies of all time. All right, we got one more movie before we do the first tally for the Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser. So here we go. Movie number 5 is Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? The Ghostbusters. This is, honestly, my favorite movie of all time. I'm not going to lie. Defined my childhood. The cartoon, The Real Ghostbusters, was a show I watched all the time when I was a kid. But this movie was incredible. The last movie they made, not so good. Frozen Empire was not great. Afterlife was fantastic. The reboot they did with Saturday Night Live, Melissa McCarthy and Kristen Wiig, not so good. Didn't like it that much. But Ghostbusters 1, Ghostbusters 2, and Ghostbusters Afterlife, 3 of my favorite movies. But this one right here, one of my favorite movies. And this is the first comedy and the first sci-fi to make it on this list so far. I think this is, I haven't really had much comedy, but Bill Murray, one of my favorite comedians of all time. Stripes, we're in chronological order. Stripes was made in 1981. Did not make my list, but probably would have been in my next 25 movies if I had 50. But I got to say, Ghostbusters is right up there for me. This is it's everything. It's an action movie. It's a sci-fi movie. It's a horror movie. It's a comedy movie. It's a drama. It's absolutely awesome. And it's one of the most revolutionary and definitive movies of, yes, Eddie Murphy was supposed to play Winston Zeddemore in this movie. That is correct. And John Belushi was supposed to play Peter Venkman until his death. What's crazy about this movie is that realistically, Stripes and Blues Brothers were really the prerequisite movies for Ghostbusters. Realistically, the Blues Brothers and Stripes had to succeed because Blues Brothers made Dan Aykroyd a massive star outside of Saturday Night Live. And then Stripes with Harold Ramis and Bill Murray and the director, Ivan Reitman, who also directed this, were all on Stripes together. And realistically, this is what really got them to have that budget where they basically paired Aykroyd, Ramis, and Murray together, and then got Sigourney Weaver, Rick Moranis, and then the fourth Ghostbuster, Ernie Hudson, along with Annie Potts, who was famous for Designing Women, a television show, as Janine. I think Designing Women was on after this. I never watched the show, but I've heard of it. But Sigourney Weaver was an alien in Aliens after this. But this is an ultimate movie. It's great because what's so great about this movie is how simple it is, and then how complex it gets. It starts off as just basically low budget ghost hunters that are ghost detectives with limited equipment, doing research off a university, getting fired from that university, getting some readings, some samples, designing their own equipment from proton packs to an Ecto-1 vehicle, to an Ecto containment center where they trap ghosts, and basically having all this revolutionary equipment. I think if you look at 80s movies, this is one of the definitive movies of that decade. And it was one of the ultimate movies ever made, in my particular opinion. And it's such a multi-genre movie as well. It's just, what is it? Is it an action? Is it sci-fi? Is it horror? Is it suspense? Is it drama? Is it comedy? It has everything. It's the all-purpose movie. It really, really is. And what's great is, they kind of show them kind of evolve from being unable to take on a library ghost at the beginning to taking on Slimer at the Sedgwick Hotel and actually capturing him, to taking on a slew of ghosts, to battling it out with an EPA guy that's hell-bent on putting them out of business, and then finally to them going out of business, and basically getting arrested, and then ultimately having to save the day by going in the biggest haunted castle of them all, which is 55 Central Park West, and battling the Gozerian on a rooftop, who then converts herself into a giant 100-foot marshmallow man in one of the most shocking scenes in movie history. Who could have ever thought at the beginning of that movie, when they were just a bunch of random guys with silver jackets and one PKA meter, that these guys would be taking on a 100-foot marshmallow man who was trying to stop and save, basically trying to stop the world from existing or take over the world, basically. Who would have thought this movie would have evolved into what it would evolved into? But this was a great movie. One of my all-time favorites for sure, and absolutely love Ghostbusters. So that is the first of my 5 movies. So let's take a little first break here. The first fundraiser total tally and announcement. Let's take a look at our numbers here, and let's see what we got for donations for Turtleboy so far. Let's see what we got. Money's rolling in. Let's see what we got here. All right, so I got two $25 donations coming in from Terry and Carissa. All right, and looks like Carissa put in another 25, so we'll put another 25 down. All right, we're up to 75 so far. All right, and Glam is saying 171. I'm going to do my check too. Another 25 from Eileen and $50 from Anonymous. So let's add that up. 25 and 50. That gets us up to 150. Then we got 11, 20, and 10. All right, so let's add that up. 11, 20, and 10. That gets us to 191. I got 191. And we got another 50 in? All right, I'll get that up too. Let's see that. All right, another 50 in. All right, we'll take that. All right. And we are at $241 right now. I got 241, Suze. We're going to count the K9 Chinatown one. We're just going to count it. Yeah, so I'm going to go 241 as the official count for that. Some people forget. So we're going to go 241 to start. Okay. That's great for the first session of this show so far. $241. Yeah, we're gonna break the rules a little bit and just assume people forget. That's the plan. No, I know what you're saying, but I know we're gonna count it. Why not? All right, so I got a nice image. Yeah, we'll add it. Yeah, so we'll go with 241. And then we need to make note that Jody had the last one for this portion of the portion of the show. All right, so I'll just make note. Jody's 50 is what we're going to mark off at. Okay, so we'll start counting everything after that for the next session of the show. All right, perfect. So Turtleboy's Defense Fundraiser, again, is in the chat, pinned to the top. It's also in the description. Please write Mazza in your donation comment, and we will be good to go. All right, so we are continuing on here. Movie number 6 is The Karate Kid. You bet. You bet. The Karate Kid, ladies and gentlemen. Another one of my favorite movies of all time. And again, getting back to Bruce Lee. This is a movie that really kind of got the martial arts craze going in the world. And then all of a sudden, 11 years later, here you see one of the most epic martial arts stories ever told at a high school level. This is about school bullying and martial arts all rolled into one. And this is ultimately, it's like Rocky. It's like someone took Rocky and Enter the Dragon and just kind of took both themes, the martial arts theme, the sports themes, and then basically the underdog riding right up to the top of this kid that knows nothing about martial arts at all, going to this school where this gang of martial artists known as the Cobra Kai, led by Johnny Lawrence, one of the most epic villains in any movie ever, really collide over in my opinion, one of the most gorgeous women ever, Elizabeth Shue. I just think she's phenomenal. I honestly had a childhood crush on her. I'm not even going to lie. Elizabeth Shue is gorgeous. And they get in a fight over her, reasonably so. Johnny Lawrence used to date her. They had a falling out. Ralph Macchio comes to town. He sees her. He's asking about the blonde and blue from the hills. This is basically, your typical high school story of fighting over a girl. Ralph Macchio sees her. Immediately, him and her are an item. Johnny Lawrence catches wind of this, and Johnny Lawrence doesn't like it because, like Tommy said in the Cobra Kai, hey, man, I thought they broke up. She did. He didn't. Hey, man, who told you it's over, man? Who told you it's over, man? All right. So Johnny Lawrence comes down to the beach. He's not done talking to Elizabeth Shue, Allie, about their issues yet, and they get in a big argument on the beach. But there's a problem for Johnny Lawrence, that this new kid from Reseda doesn't want to leave well enough alone. All right. So she takes, they get in an argument, Johnny and Ellie. Johnny takes the radio, throws it down. She's like, yeah, just break my radio. And Lawrence is still arguing. LaRusso gets involved and picks up the radio against Lawrence's commands and disrespects Johnny Lawrence. And Johnny Lawrence is like, hey, man, I told you not to touch the radio. He's like, man, what the hell's the problem? So Lawrence throws him on the ground. LaRusso gets up. They go at it. Lawrence beats him up. LaRusso gets a nice cheap shot in there with a nice uppercut. And then, Lawrence just basically takes him out with all his black belt Cobra Kai skills because he is the All Valley champion. And again, when people don't leave well enough alone and try to move in on Johnny Lawrence's girl, there's going to be issues. And LaRusso had to learn the hard way to leave well enough alone. But LaRusso didn't deserve to get beaten up over this, right? And he didn't deserve to get basically chased down when they were on motorbikes because he was trying to learn karate. And they ran him off a hill when he was riding his bike home and basically destroyed him and his bike. And the Glare doesn't like the Karate Kid? Oh, my goodness. Wow. Wax on, wax off. So I like to hear his theories. That's great. Maybe he likes it. He just has a theory about it. That's funny. So LaRusso gets beaten up. But again, LaRusso, he's always one to get revenge. He doesn't let things go either. He doesn't like the fact that these guys are beating him up, and finally they're at a Halloween party. And during this Halloween party, Johnny Lawrence is using the facilities not to go to the bathroom, but to roll something for smoking purposes, for habitual, for medicinal purposes. And LaRusso thinks this is a great time to plant a hose above the stall, turn on some water, and flee. The problem is LaRusso could have actually got away with this if he was more discreet about it. He could have just hid at the sink. Just hid somewhere. Instead, he runs out of the bathroom announcing that get out of the way, out of the way. It's like, now everybody knows who it was you, man. So Johnny Lawrence runs out of the bathroom, rounds up the Cobra Kai. They chase him down. LaRusso runs off school property, runs into the woods, hops a few fences. These guys chase him down. He gets to the very last fence just before he's home free, and they pull him off the fence, beat the crap out of him. No mercy. Bobby's like, hey, man, he's had enough. Lawrence says, I'll decide when he's had enough, man. Enemy deserves no mercy. Dutch and Tommy agree. They continue to beat down LaRusso when out of nowhere, Mr. Miyagi jumps off the top of the fence, takes out all 5 of these kids in 3 seconds flat, beats them all down, saves LaRusso. At this point, LaRusso knows that Mr. Miyagi is his guy. Mr. Miyagi is his bodyguard, but now Mr. Miyagi can train him. So they try to put a stop to it at the Cobra Kai dojo. They run into John Kreese. John Kreese says, you come in my dojo, you better drop a challenge and leave, old man. Mr. Miyagi names the place, which is the All Valley Tournament. And here we go. And Miyagi has one more request. Ask leave boy alone to train for a tournament. So he does. So Mr. Miyagi sets those terms. Sensei John Kreese agrees. We'll see you at the All Valley Tournament. Okay. So Miyagi's going to train LaRusso. He learns to wax on, wax off. He learns how to paint the fence. He learns how to sand. He learns all these things. All right. Defense. Learns some offense. LaRusso goes in that tournament. Goes through just about every single member of the Cobra Kai. Gets in the finals. Gets the bet. Goes up 2-0 on Johnny Lawrence. Then Johnny Lawrence starts his comeback. Sweeps the leg. It's 2-2. LaRusso's left leg, not going to hang anymore, but LaRusso has an ace up his sleeve. He saw Mr. Miyagi when he was training on the beach. When Miyagi was teaching him to learn balance at the beach, he saw Miyagi doing that crane kick over there on the beach. LaRusso thinks to himself, I ought to use that crane kick right here, right now, considering my left leg is out of commission. There are going to be spoilers. These movies are old. If you haven't seen them yet, don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. LaRusso launches that crane kick. Boom. Down goes Johnny Lawrence. We have a new All Valley champion. It's Daniel LaRusso, ladies and gentlemen. And the most epic ending, one of the most epic endings to a movie in history. Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. Love this movie. It's an all-time classic. The sequels were great. The second, third movie was fantastic. And I just saw the new one in the movie theater. And then I watched the whole Cobra Kai series, every episode. It was great stuff. Perfect. All right, that's number 6. Number 7. You can already hear the theme song in your head already. Boo, boom, we got another comedy, Beverly Hills Cop with Eddie Murphy. So Eddie Murphy did turn down Ghostbusters, which was kind of sucked. But we got Ernie Hudson to play Winston Zeddemore, and he was perfect anyways. But Eddie Murphy, that same time frame, went on to make Beverly Hills Cop, which you may not know, was originally supposed to star Sylvester Stallone. But Sylvester Stallone dropped out of this movie, and Eddie Murphy was in this movie. And what I like about this movie is I like that number one was Enter the Dragon. And these movies are unranked. They are presented in chronological order by release date. So we got Beverly Hills Cop. Number two is Superman 2. So Beverly Hills Cop is, I just love this movie for a lot of reasons. It's a good feel-good comedy. And I just like the fact that, you know, Axel Foley is this, you know, Detroit City cop, which is a city that, we'll count it, Casey. We'll count it. You know, as a Detroit City cop, which is kind of, you know, they kind of established the movie right off the bat. Like, Detroit is not a high-flying city. And Beverly Hills Cop is. And when they introduce you to both cities in the movies, they kind of show you, you know, really what kind of a hellhole Detroit is. If you're from Detroit, I apologize. You probably agree anyway. And then they show you what Beverly Hills Cop, Beverly Hills is all about. You know, all glitz and glam, models, style, fast cars, elegant clothing, all that stuff, right? And of course, Axel Foley leaves Detroit because his buddy ends up getting taken out by a crew from Beverly Hills and ends up traveling out there. And really, for him, it's, you know, the difference here is like, you know, the equivalent for Axel Foley in this movie is like Dorothy's equivalent in The Wizard of Oz. It's like going from Kansas to Oz, okay? It's night and day. And that's the way it is when he goes to Beverly Hills Cop. He's never been here. He's like, wow, this is a whole different world. And even technologically for 1984, Beverly Hills is significantly more advanced than Detroit. So, of course, Axel Foley has a good hunch who the killers are. Kind of similar to another journalist you guys know who's known for confronting people that he believes are involved in certain aspects of criminal activity. And of course, he gets taken out of the, you know, he confronts this guy in his business. They drag him right out of the building, throw him right through the glass, and claim that he jumped out of the window. And then Axel Foley is arrested and brought to the Beverly Hills police station for the first time. Ultimately, Axel Foley ends up meeting a couple cops. And ultimately, that's Taggart and Rosewood, who end up becoming, you know, a guy's assigned to follow him. And it was great because these guys, you know, it was the comedy between these guys. They all kind of, you know, Taggart didn't like him. It was Taggart's on the left of the vehicle, and Rosewood, who you guys probably remember from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, is on the right. And they kind of had mixed feelings about Axel, but they kind of form a bond. And honestly, this is one of my favorite trios in movie history. And then ultimately, you see that they go on to form a great trio at the end of the movie that ultimately have to rescue Axel Foley's friend Jenny. And this ends up turning into basically a shootout at a mansion where they have to save the day and rescue the woman and stop the villains. And it's just a great, great action movie. They all bond, and you know, it's just a great time. But it's a good story, and it's a great time, and definitely a movie I enjoy quite a bit. So love Beverly Hills Cop, and what a time it was for a movie. All right, number 8, Rambo: First Blood Part 2. Yeah, I got 2 Rambo movies on this list. Only 1 Rocky movie, but I got 2 Rambo movies. I love this movie. It's the sequel. It picks up with Rambo in a high security prison, and this particular time he has a chance. Basically, this is the ultimate Vietnam fantasy movie. What if you had a chance to go back to Vietnam and change the outcome, which is what Rambo gets to do. This is about POWs, this particular mission, and they basically, Colonel Troutman basically works out a deal where Rambo might get a presidential pardon for going down to Vietnam on a mission where he's only supposed to take pictures. Yeah, I love action movies. Yeah. Only supposed to take pictures. and ultimately is not supposed to engage the enemy. Well, he ultimately has to engage the enemy, gets left for dead because the people running the mission, it's a private secret mission, basically leave Rambo and all the POW he rescued for dead. And then Rambo basically, is imprisoned again. He finds himself in the same circumstance he was in Vietnam before, and now he's in Vietnam again, and he's a prisoner again, and now the Russians are also involved in this too. And so that all happens, and now Rambo is like, well, now I got to fight the hell out of here again. So he does. He fights out of there. He battles his way out of there and goes all out and ultimately rescues all the POWs that Mission Control did not want to happen. He gets all these guys on a helicopter. They battle their way out of there. But what I liked about this movie so much was just the level of combat in it. It was it's like Commando, just all the action, all the excitement. Amy's not a fan of the movie taste. What are you going to do? Those are my movies. Those are my movies, Amy. But no, I loved the action, love all the excitement. It was kind of a great story about sending a message about POWs, which was a major issue back then. It was definitely a concern. And, Rambo's final comment at the end of the movie when he gets back is, there's still more POWs out there and we got to get them. And ultimately the government, I don't know what they did or didn't do, but that ultimately, was a message of the times. The POWs were still down there. They were still being held hostage. And it was kind of a release movie in terms of, the stresses and psychology of that particular time that I was too young for, but I enjoyed the action. All right, number 9, here we go. Back to the Future. Braddock. Yeah. Back to the Future. This is one of my all-time favorites, folks. Back to the Future. This is an ultimate movie. Like Ghostbusters, it is it's ultimately a movie that has multiple things that factor into it, such as science fiction, fantasy, comedy, romance. No horror on this one, unless you count the Darth Vader scene. But this is ultimately a movie that is just another definitive 80s movie for me. And I think for many people would say this is probably the ultimate 80s movie. Right in the middle of Amy, come on. Please tell me you like Back to the Future. Come on. But no, I love this movie so much just because it's a great trip back to the 50s, an era, unfamiliar to me. Obviously, I've never lived in the 50s in my life. I've only seen it in the movies. But, what I like about this too is, again, the creativity of the 80s. Taking a DeLorean, going back in time, and, traveling 88 miles per hour. I mean, who in their right mind, when you think of time traveling, doesn't think of, well, if I was going to time travel, I'd want to time travel in that DeLorean. It's the ultimate story of time traveling. And again, you have a great cast. You have Michael J. Fox, you have Christopher Lloyd, Crispin Glover. Every actor in this movie, not really big stars, or maybe they were stars for a while, and that star power eventually, tapered off. This was a movie that really, really drew, a lot of reviews that were great. Steven Spielberg produced it. You had Biff Tannen as the villain in this particular movie, and it was kind of crazy how he was, okay, Amy, got you. He was kind of a generational villain. And, he was basically in the 80s, you kind of see the perspective. You see how Marty's family is at the beginning of the movie. You see how they are at the end of the movie. And ultimately, you see that, how people can change just by stepping up. And I think the message, too, is that at any time in your life, you can step up and make a stand. You don't have to tolerate what life is giving you. You can stand up and make that change. And I think that's kind of similar to the Karen Reed and Turtleboy matters, is that this is about standing up and bringing about change, which is what, George McFly ultimately was taught by Marty McFly. If you believe in yourself, you can accomplish anything, was the message of that movie. And eventually George McFly believed in himself and punched out Biff and basically changed his own future in the process. And when Marty got back in 1985, he found his father and parents in a totally different set of circumstances, and things changed. And that's realistically what happened in that story. It was a great plot, great movie, well done movie, and again, one of the ultimate movies in my opinion, movie history. In my opinion, this is probably my one or two favorite movies of all time. I would definitely say one or two all time for me. Right up there with Ghostbusters. Yeah, and I thought the script was clever. I guess the movie studios didn't like it too much because of the mother-son kiss, but they kind of did that in innocence, I think, and all that, which was really cool. So let's do one quick thing here. And we're gonna get another tally here of where we're at with the total in just a few moments after one more movie. But I liked it all. Like I said, I liked the ending too. The ending was very suspenseful, where you had Marty trying to get back in time. Doc's plan to get him back because they didn't have any more plutonium. So they found out about a bolt of lightning that they were going to rig a cable to and help Marty get back in time. But basically driving 88 miles an hour down Hill Valley, a street in Hill Valley, connecting the cable with the lightning bolt and getting Marty back to 1985, which was awesome. So loved it all. All right, here we go. Next up, we got another action movie. We got Predator. Arnold Schwarzenegger, you bet. Another one of my absolute favorite movies ever made is Predator. This is one of my two favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger movies of all time. The other one is on this list, and it is not the original Terminator because we're past 1984 now. So we're up to 1987, chronological order. But movie number 10 is the original Predator movie. The sequels are okay. Predator 2 is okay. Predators is all right. The Predator's kind of not so good. The movie Prey is all right. And they're working on a 6th movie right now. But this movie is really something else. This is a movie that takes your typical war movie or military movie and combines it with an alien from outer space that is a hunter, that is out to take on people it perceives as worthy opponents and basically fight them by any means necessary, which includes invisibility cloaking, basically a knife attachment on its hand, similar to Wolverine, a shoulder cannon that fires laser beams. This movie was absolutely nuts. And what's crazy, too, is that you basically have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who, in my opinion, other than Sylvester Stallone, is one of the top 2 action movie stars of all time. In my opinion, Stallone and Schwarzenegger are 1 and 2. I'd say 1 and 1, quite honestly. It's like Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, just even. And you have this ultimate action star. He's in his prime. He's got this green military team, mercenary team, basically, that are a special ops, black op team that are all top-notch guys, all top-notch dudes, every single one of them are just 5-star military, soldiers. And they go down because what happened is that Jim Hopper and his team end up missing. And they don't know why. They went down to Colombia or Cambodia or whatever here in South America. And they don't know why this other team's been eliminated. And they got to find out what's going on. So they go down there, end up finding out that Jim Hopper's team all got skinned alive and all got killed. And are all basically hanging in the woods. And they end up taking out all the Colombians. Every single one of them. I mean, you learn right off the bat this military team is nothing to be messing around with. They just absolutely take down everybody that's an enemy, soldier down there with absolute ease. All 7 of them run through all. I mean, they got Carl Weathers, who was Apollo Creed. They got Jesse Ventura. They got this guy, Billy. They got Blaine, who was Jesse Ventura. They got Mac. They got all these guys that are top-notch guys. And then all of a sudden they realize they're starting to get picked off one by one. It turns into like a real-life Survivor movie where one by one, every member of this team is getting eliminated. And they start to wonder what the hell is going on here. And they start to realize that, because of this woman that they picked up as Dylan wanted to bring her along, to have her questioned. They end up learning that basically she says the jungle just came alive, but really what it was it was an invisible space alien that's doing all this. And they start to realize as they go on that this is a pretty serious issue here, and they're not taking on any man. And even Billy, who's never afraid of anything, says, it ain't no man. We're all going to die. And they decide to just, instead of getting to the chopper, they decide to wage an counteroffensive and set up a bunch of traps that ultimately was a great idea. But because of this predator, ultimately in its ability and weaponry, ultimately ends up backfiring on all of them. Multiple more soldiers go down. Poncho, Dylan, Mac, Billy ends up standing his ground. He gets taken out. Everybody just starts to go down. And eventually, it's just down to Schwarzenegger. And the last 20 minutes is basically Schwarzenegger fighting the Predator one-on-one. After a waterfall scene where he ends up falling in the mud, learning that he can use this mud to make him invisible because the Predator's tracking heat. So he ultimately decides to set up a bunch of traps. And again, it all fails. But then he just kicks the stick at the end, and the giant thick pad comes down, and the Predator takes it out. The Predator has a defense mechanism, which is a self-destruct mechanism, blows up the jungle there, and Schwarzenegger jumps to his survival. And that is it. He ends up surviving, and that's it. That's the movie Predator, but it was awesome. Great action movie. Predator is ultimately a coward, in my opinion. He had to use invisibility and all kinds of special weapons to basically not fight anybody head-to-head. I just can only imagine it's shocking that they didn't actually kill him during the scene pictured there, where they all fired into the jungle nonstop, trying to take down the Predator, but nothing came of it. But hey, it was awesome. It was a good time. It was a great movie. Let's do a tally. All right, the second fundraiser total tally and announcement. Let's take a look. So we left off with Jody, who made a $50 donation to Karen. I almost said Karen Reed's Defense Fund. Turtleboy's Defense Fund, which we're counting for today. It looks like we got a good amount of donations here. We've got 3 more. We got Casey, who reported in as a donation for 20. So 20. And then we got 15 from Berkshire Girl. And we got 20 more. So 15 and 20. Let's get that tallied in. 15 and 20. Please share this stream too, so people know that this show is going on here. That way we can try to get as many donations as we can for Aiden tonight, and that would be great. All right, so we got that there. All right, and there we go. All right, we're at $296 right now. $296. I'll do one more refresh. All right, so $296. Yep, $296 is our new total. And we are trying to get to 1,000 today. We're going to see if we can pull that off. Casey said he or she had donated. So, we're going to see if we can pull that off. But we are at $296 for Aiden right now. I'm thirsty today. But let's move on to number 11. So $296 right now, ladies and gentlemen. Again, the link is pinned to the top of your chat. Write Mazza in your comments. And if for some reason you forget, just let us know. Me and Glam Masseuse are both doing tallying right now, and we'll take a look at that. All right, so here we go. All right, moving on to number 11 is another action movie. There's going to be a lot of them. Die Hard. This was on my Christmas list. This is Casey is a she. Thank you. It was on my Christmas movie list, and it's on my my all-time movie list here. So we got Die Hard, number 11 on the list from 1988. Now look at this. Every movie so far but one has been an 80s movie. So 80s movies are dominating this list. This is an ultimate, again, an underdog story. One of the greatest action movies ever made. Bruce Willis basically made his whole career into an A-list career after this, just based off this one movie, from starring as basically a soap opera guy on Moonlighting, and then ultimately evolving into an action movie that nobody expected to succeed at all. This movie was not expected to do well with Bruce Willis. Stallone, Schwarzenegger, Chuck Norris, all at the time were stars. Hollywood, critics were like, I don't know if Bruce Willis is going to cut it as an action star. This is a soap opera guy from Moonlighting with Sybil Shepherd. And then the movie ended up being a major hit. And not only a major hit, it was an absolute great movie. And yes, it's a Christmas movie. There's no question about that at all. No question about that at all. And this movie ultimately had Bruce Willis as a guy that was separated from his wife and went up to Nakatomi Plaza in Los Angeles to spend Christmas and met up with his wife at her Christmas party when 12 basically bank robbers decide to hijack the whole building. They think they're terrorists. They're really bank robbers. They hijack the whole building. The whole thing's just a robbery. That's the whole plot. That is it. And other than that, Bruce Willis all of a sudden finds himself, on the outskirts of the building all movie, battling these guys from the top floor to the very bottom floor, pretty much dropping C4, dropping, a chair with C4 down an elevator shaft, climbing elevator shafts, climbing through tight areas, battling one armed gunman after another, and saying memorable quotes like "Yippee-ki-yay," "Happy Trails," all those great comments that he made. It was an amazing action movie and a great, a lot of great, same, actually, what's funny is the same director of Predator actually directed this. Additionally, this movie was supposed to be the sequel to Commando with Arnold Schwarzenegger, which would probably be my next 25 favorite movies. But yeah, that's ultimately what happened here. Was this ended up becoming a major hit, spawned so many sequels. Die Hard 2 years later, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Die Hard with a Vengeance actually did not make my list, but was right on the chopping block. Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard, which I actually liked a lot, and then A Good Day to Die Hard, which I did not like very much. It was okay. It was kind of a lackluster sequel, but this was a great movie. Definitely a great action movie, kind of the underdog action hero in this. Movies at the time were so used to like Schwarzenegger and Stallone style heroes that were like almost unbeatable. And when they were like Schwarzenegger in Predator, for example, when he is vulnerable, it's when he's battling, a predator from outer space as opposed to other human beings. But this movie was kind of like an underdog action hero where you felt like could die at any moment, who was bleeding, was getting battered, and you really said, "Oh my God, I don't know, this guy's not your typical action hero," but didn't seem like he'd save the day, but ultimately did. So it was a nice change in pace for Hollywood, and ended up again, producing a great career for Bruce Willis. And Hans Gruber, yes, Kathy, was a great villain. I definitely did. I thought Die Hard with a Vengeance was pretty close in greatness to this movie. All right, so that's Die Hard number 11. Number 12, we're still in the 80s here, and we're going with They Live. This is a real wild card, this movie. A real wild card. Most people have either seen it or they haven't. It's not a movie that's definitely popular, but for me, I think this is one of the most underrated, great movies of all time. Anybody who's ever seen the movie knows how great this movie is. It's just that not many people know about this movie other than a moderate audience. And this is a movie about space aliens. It stars Roddy Piper, again, an unconventional action movie star who was from the world of pro wrestling. Now, this is actually a John Carpenter movie. The same director from Halloween directed this movie. The same director from The Thing, Escape from New York. This was another one of his movies that he made. And this, to me, was so striking because it turns out that, it's all about a homeless guy. His life is not successful, can't keep a job. He's drifting all the time, not grifting, drifting, and going place to place. And ultimately ends up in Los Angeles, just like Bruce Willis did in Die Hard, just like Axel Foley did in Beverly Hills Cop, right? They always come from some other place to California, and that's where all the craziness happens. It's like the same movie plot over and over again. But Roddy Piper is staying at this homeless location, and he notices this church across the street where the homeless shelter organizers are staying. And they're in and out, and they're kind of suspicious because these cops are showing up all the time, and helicopters are flying all over the place, and cops are driving by, and he's like, what's going on? What gives? So he breaks into the church one day and finds these sunglasses, Later that night, the church gets ransacked. The homeless location gets ransacked by the cops, and they're beating everybody up, and they're getting people out of there. And he finds the people that are ahead of that church, that are ahead of the homeless shelter, base themselves out of the church, all getting beaten to death. And it doesn't make much sense. The next day he goes back, in the rubble, and he finds the sunglasses. He's like, what's all these sunglasses? Why are they producing all these sunglasses? What's going on? So he takes a box, goes into an alley, and he puts these sunglasses on. And he starts walking around the streets, and he starts noticing all the advertisements have hidden messages like stay asleep, obey, all this other stuff, marry and reproduce, all this stuff. So he realizes, when he gets to this very scene here pictured, when this guy walks up to him at the newspaper stand, that, there's an alien. Like this, he takes the sunglasses off, he's a normal person. He puts the sunglasses on, it's an alien. Takes them off, alien. Sorry. Sunglasses on, it's an alien. Sunglasses off, it's a human. Sunglasses back on, it's an alien. So he starts to realize he has X-ray glasses that can now see which people are space aliens and which people are actual humans. And he learns that aliens are disguised as humans. And all of these aliens tend to be extremely financially successful. So Rowdy Roddy Piper ends up walking around town. He starts some stuff. This movie is worth watching, Aussie. Yeah, it's worth watching. So he ends up finding out that he ends up commenting to one of the aliens that they're an alien, which causes a whole wave of shit. And ultimately, the cops come after him. And these cops turn out to be, guess what? Aliens, which meant what? Most of the cops from the night before that ransacked the homeless shelter, they were all aliens too. So he ends up getting in a battle in the streets. He becomes a wanted man. He ends up meeting up with all the other freedom fighters against the aliens. And they end up getting a massive battle at the end of the movie. And they end up finding out where the signal comes from. And then he ends up going to the roof of the building, shooting down the satellite, which destroys the signal. And now everybody knows that aliens exist. And then the movie just ends and leaves you in basically chaos. Complete and utter chaos. So that's movie number 12. Movie number 13, ladies and gentlemen, the second superhero movie on this movie, and one of my favorite movies. Actually, all these movies are my favorite movies of all time. What am I talking about? By the way, Turtleboy's Defense Fund is pinned to the top of your chat. Please make a donation. Write Mazza in the donation. Movie number 13 is Batman from 1989. If you've ever seen any superhero movie in your life, this has to be, especially if you're someone from the 80s or early 90s that remembers life at that time, this has to be one of your favorite movies of all time when it comes to superhero movies. Michael Keaton as Batman, Jack Nicholson as the Joker, Vicky Vale played by Kim Basinger. This is an ultimate movie. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I love this movie to death. I was like a very small kid when this came out. And I used to watch the Adam West show all the time. When this came out, had to see it. I had the Batman action figures. I had the Batman cereal, all of that stuff. He had Prince music in it. Awesome stuff. And this is just a great movie. It's not really an origin story. He's already Batman. But Tim Burton does a great job with this. There's a great level of gothicness to this movie. And you have Jack Nicholson as one of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion, in this movie. And it's just a great Batman saves the girl and stops the villain movie. The Batmobile, the Batsuit, all top notch. The Batmobile is one of the best. It is the best Batmobile in movie history. I think it could be modernized a little bit looking back at it, but it's an awesome vehicle. And we're still in the 80s here. We're 13 movies deep, and 12 of them have been 80s movies. But yeah, Batman 1989 is just awesome. Michael Keaton, Michael Keaton and Christian Bale are kind of tied for me. I know people kind of go back and forth. I kind of feel that this is Keaton's best movie, but I think that Keaton and Bale are kind of even. I really do. I think for different reasons. I think Keaton definitely had the intimidation down better. I think, he was also in the darker version of it, which was awesome. But this was awesome, top to bottom, man. Top to bottom, awesome. Such a great movie. Oh, ever Dance with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight? Yeah, and he ends up finding out Joker killed his parents and ultimately, you know, got him back at the end. Great death by the Joker, too. Number 14, here we go. I'd be lying if I didn't have this on my list. This whole show is about donating money to Turtleboy, isn't it? It's all about the Turtleboy Defense Fund. Well, what about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles being on this particular list? I'm a kid from this time. This is my childhood. And Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles, when I was a kid, that's where it was at. We finally made it to the 1990s. And I got to go with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Loved this movie when I was a kid. The movie that was deemed too dark for kids, I don't care what they said. They felt they had too much violence in it. I don't care what they said. Did not care what they had to say about this at all. You had the Shredder as the villain, who was one of the ultimate movie villains. He was basically like a Japanese martial artist version of Darth Vader. You know, as the villain, you basically had Master Splinter, who was basically the rat version of Mr. Miyagi. And then you had these Ninja Turtles that were out there and kicking butt. And it was a great movie. They had pizza, you know, Domino's Pizza they had in this movie. They had Casey Jones as their special helper. And all he did to help them out was awesome. It was a great team. The battles in this movie were awesome. The martial arts was, you had a lot of people that were involved with Bruce Lee films in the past that were involved in this. 1 second, sorry. That were involved in this and did a great job choreographing all the action. You had great martial artists in the actual suits. And that's what I kind of liked better. Like the new Ninja Turtle movies are okay, but what I liked about these movies they were live action. They were live action movies back then where guys were in costumes and they were real to life and they moved around. You know, that I liked. I didn't like, you know, like the animated one they did with Megan Fox. It was all CGI. That just looked ridiculous. This felt more real to life, which I liked about this movie, and the second one and the third one, quite honestly. And those are my Ninja Turtle movies. And the second one's another one of my favorite movies, but did not make the cut for top 25. But it's close. It's top 50. But no, definitely an awesome movie, a product of my childhood for sure, and a movie I love. All right, we got one more movie. Then we're going to take a break to count the Turtleboy Defense Fund total. Number 15. At the absolute top of my favorite movies of all time. This is definitely in my top 5. Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, Predator, and this are definitely my top 4 favorite movies of all time. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. I was too young to go to the movie theater to see this. Unfortunately, my parents said, no, you're too young. One of the movies I just could not wait to see. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the man. Just loved this movie. It was awesome. It was so groundbreaking at the time. Other than The Abyss that James Cameron made, there had never been a movie like this before with this level of special effects. You know, the first Terminator was incredible, but with the T-1000 and this one in the liquid metal, this just took things to a whole nother level. And James Cameron recently said that, you know, AI could take over in a means similar to this. And apparently China's developing it's rated R. China's developing a liquid metal robot as we speak. I was reading about that just last night. But this was an awesome movie. And again, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know, one of my 2 favorite Arnold Schwarzenegger's movies alongside Predator. This is the one with the teenage delinquent John Connor. Yes, that is correct. And, you know, I just thought this movie was awesome. It was, you know, it caused a lot of controversy because they thought it was marketed to kids. And I was one of those kids at the time that had the action figures from this movie. I had the Terminator. I had the T-1000. You know, I remember people in my family that didn't like action being marketed to kids. Like, why are they marketing rated R movies to kids like this? I don't care. I didn't care. I was like, cares what you think. I want my action figures, you know. But I had the Terminator action figure, the T-1000 action figure. It was awesome. Great times. I loved being a kid back then when you could watch stuff like this. Watch what I want. But this was just awesome. It was all about, you know, the first one was about killing Sarah Connor, the mother of John Connor. This one was about killing John Connor. And also, because at this point it was too late to stop Sarah Connor because she already gave birth. So at this point, they had to try to kill John Connor. And then a Terminator was sent back to protect them. And that's what I love about this is that it's all back and forth. You know, it's the whole race to find John Connor is great between the T-800 Schwarzenegger and the T-1000. The fights are awesome. And it kind of really builds off the last movie where it was Kyle Reese, a human, versus Arnold Schwarzenegger, a Terminator. In this movie now, the Terminator is the hero, but he's the underdog against a superior Terminator known as the T-1000, which is absolutely a wild development that can make knives, stabbing weapons with his body, and is just absolutely an unstoppable villain. And honestly, in movie history, one of the hardest to stop villains that we've ever seen. And the ending here, you know, is basically takes place in some kind of factory with like flames, some kind of flaming lava in it, and that's the way they have to stop them. They have to basically use a liquid to stop the T-1000, which ended up putting an end to him once and for all, which was absolutely wild and out of control for its time. But I love that movie so much, and it's one of my favorites. Like I said, Schwarzenegger's in his prime in this. This is his definitive Terminator movie. The first one was a great movie. This one completely tops Terminator in the original in every single way known to man. There's a lot of sequels that are better than the original. Not many, I should say. This is definitely one of them, gotta say. All right, next up, we're going to take a look at the fundraiser total. We left off at $296. Let's get a total here. Let's see what we got. All right, and there have been no new donations. No new donations have been made to Turtleboy's Defense Fund. If you guys are able to make a donation, please go ahead and make that donation now. The Turtleboy Defense Fundraiser defense link is pinned at the top of the chat. Please write Mazza in your donation comment. We'll get that counted. We are close to 300 right now. We're just there. We were just dollars away from making raising over $300 for Aiden today. Please go ahead and make that donation when you are able. Again, that link is pinned to the top of the chat. All right, we're moving on. All right, number 16 is Point Break with Keanu Reeves and Patrick Swayze, The Glarer. I'm not sure if he's still tuning in, but me and The Glarer actually did a show on this movie. We did a watch-along a couple of weeks ago where we talked about this movie and we watched it and reacted to it. It's a classic. Keanu Reeves is really in this movie solidifying himself in his first action movie role, similar to the way Bruce Willis did in Die Hard. Patrick Swayze was a established star at this point, but a hero. And usually, like in Roadhouse and other movies, would always play, again, a heroic role, but then decided to play the villain in this movie, who was kind of a villain, kind of not. But this is a wild movie about Keanu Reeves as a new blood FBI agent who is partnered with Gary Busey's character, who is investigating a robbery by a band of guys calling themselves the ex-presidents, who wear presidential masks and pretend to be, ex-presidents as they rob banks. They kind of have a gimmick, and they go around bank to bank and rob and basically finance their endless summer to surf and do whatever they want all the time, which is pretty hilarious. So at the end of the day, it's up to Keanu Reeves to investigate and infiltrate, find the dealers, locate the suppliers type deal here, where he's going to infiltrate the ex-presidents by any means possible. They find out these guys have got to be surfers. So that's where they start to investigate surfers. And then he ends up becoming friends with this group and then thinks it's another group for a while, then realizes it's actually this group of surfers that are actually behind it all. But he became friends with these guys, similar to the way Paul Walker did in the original Fast and the Furious, just like JC, the music man, just said. Exactly. It's a prequel to Fast and Furious. Using surfing instead of cars, of course. So great movie. Loved it. Awesome time. All right, moving on. All right, number 17 is A Few Good Men. Greatest court movie ever made, in my opinion. Love this movie to death. If you followed me in the Karen Reed case, you know that I love to talk about A Few Good Men. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. This is a great courtroom movie. It's military court. And this particular movie, Mean Girls, is not on this list. Mean Girls is not on this list. But this is a great movie. Again, about people that have been blamed for a murder when they were ordered to do it. And you have a defense team that's got to fight for their defendants to try to prove that Colonel Nathan Jessup, played by Jack Nicholson, ordered a code red and ordered them to do it, to kill Santiago, to basically, not kill him, but to basically, beat him up a little bit. And one sec. Every time I have salts of water, I got to burp. And basically do horrible things to him that eventually led to his death. And that is what's so shocking about the movie's plot, is that their defense team is going to have to find a way to frame this in a way that proves that their men were basically put up to this in order to do this. And they eventually proved that by getting Jack Nicholson to admit that he did do it. You're damn right I did it. You're damn right I did it. So it was great. What's wild about this movie for me is I've learned so much through the Karen Reed saga from a legal perspective. Now when I go back and watch this movie, I understand so many more terms now that I didn't understand before. So that is one thing that is great about all this. For me, is that kind of, educated me, before the Karen Reed case, and I've kind of learned a lot more from this movie since, because I understand a lot more terminologies now that 2 years ago I didn't know. All-star cast: Tom Cruise, one of the great names in movie history; Jack Nicholson, one of the great names in movie history; and Demi Moore, one of the great names in movie history, as well as Kevin Bacon, Kiefer Sutherland, Cuba Gooding Jr. is in this movie, and a few other actors of notoriety as well. It's always on a lot. It's a great movie, and one of my favorites as well. So that's number 17. We're going to move to number 18. It's Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day out there every day. It's winter out, cold out there every day, isn't it? Yes, it's cold out there. So we got Groundhog Day, comedy, drama, sci-fi, fantasy. This kind of felt like the Karen Reed case in a lot of ways, right? It never seemed like it was going to ever end. There's no way that this winter is ever going to end. I kind of felt like that with the Karen Reed case for the longest time when it went to a second trial. And for a while there, we thought maybe a third trial. But Groundhog Day is on my list. Bill Murray's one of my favorite actors of all time. This is one of my favorite movies of his of all time as well. And when I have movies on my list, that's a lot of times it's creativity and innovation that I like. And what I like about this movie is that, he has to repeat the same day over and over and over and over again until things go in the right direction for him. And he gets it right. And he starts off the movie as a very cold-hearted person. At the end of the day, he's a very caring, giving person who's looking to sacrifice and help people out. And I think that's what's so fantastic about this movie plot, is how he changes as a man throughout this entire movie. He goes through bouts of depression. He commits suicide multiple times only to survive. He tries to date Andie MacDowell numerous times only to fail. And what ends up happening in this movie is he just decides to be the best version of himself that he possibly can. And through that best version of himself, he ultimately becomes a better man. He learns how to ice sculpt. He learns how to play the piano. And he just decides that, well, instead of chasing the girl that doesn't seem to want to be with me and everything else I'm trying to pursue, why don't I just become the best person I can? I'm stuck here every day. Every day I wake up, I'm here. Let me just make the best of this that I can. So sometimes he commits crimes too. He committed a couple of crimes, ran from police a few times. But ultimately at the end, he becomes a better person. And that's what ends up attracting Andie MacDowell to him later in the movie, is that he just becomes this great person. He goes from a selfish person to a person that cares, that, wants to get things done and do great things and present himself in a great way. And that ends up winning the woman over at the end of the movie. It makes her want to be with him and continue to stay with him, is all of that. So that's what's fantastic. And then he just, goes about his life, and they decide to actually stay in Puxatawny at the end of the movie. This movie was actually not filmed in the real Puxatawny. I believe it was actually filmed in Illinois, in another small town. So this is actually not the same town as the one you believe it to be. But yes, number 18 is Groundhog Day. Fun cast in this movie. To the right is Brian Doyle Murray. That's Bill Murray's older brother, who was also the kidnappee in Christmas Vacation, the cutout bonuses. He's been in other movies with Bill Murray, such as Ghostbusters 2. During the psych ward scene, he played the shrink, basically, or the psych ward doctor. So he's a great brother of Caddyshack as well. He was in Caddyshack with Bill Murray as well. But this is a fun movie. I used to watch this movie all the time. I remember one year before Thanksgiving, we were watching it like the day before Thanksgiving, the night of Thanksgiving, the night after Thanksgiving. We watched it like 3 or 4 times around Thanksgiving one year in the 90s. Thanksgiving 96 or 97, something like that. We just watched it 100 times over. It was so much fun. Such a fun movie. It's again a different movie altogether than most movies, which is great about it. Totally different plot. Directed by Harold Ramis and written by Harold Ramis, who actually wrote Caddyshack, wrote Stripes, starred in Stripes, wrote Ghostbusters, and starred in Ghostbusters, and actually had a cameo in this movie as a doctor, as a brain doctor. Number 19 is Tombstone, a movie about a corrupt town. This wouldn't be the first movie on this list about a corrupt town. This takes place in Tombstone, Arizona, and is basically a fictional documentary, fictionalization of a real-life incident that took place in Tombstone, Arizona, and features the Earp brothers, and Doc Holliday, starring Kurt Russell and the late Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, and a host of other actors. This is a great Western. Unforgiven did not make my cut, but Unforgiven right after this is my second favorite Western ever made. But this is my favorite Western movie of all time, without question. This is certainly my favorite version of the gunfight at the OK Corral. I've seen the Kirk Douglas version, and I've also seen the Kevin Costner version, as well as another one on Netflix recently. But this was an awesome movie. It just had a lot of substance, a lot of kick to it, and a lot of power. It was definitely, energetic. You wanted to see the villains go down. They battled the Clantons and McLowrys. You might call them the McClantons, but the Clantons and McLowrys were the villains in this. The McClantons, you might call them, in this small corrupt town. And these guys just went there for selfishness. The brothers did. They wanted us to get rich, go along with the gold rush and all that stuff, and just make money, retire, stop being lawmen. But in essence of everything, and in light of everything, they couldn't deny their true nature. And their true nature was to stand up and fight for people. And Virgil, played by Sam Elliott, got sick and tired of seeing battered women and children almost run over by cowboys on their horses, and decided to basically become sheriff of the town after the previous sheriff had been murdered. And eventually they all got deputized, and they eventually took on their great friend Doc Holliday, played by Val Kilmer, the late, great Val Kilmer, and decided to go crazy, battling it out at the OK Corral against the Clantons and McLowrys, and prevailed. And then a revenge tour from the Clantons and McLowrys came down from the Cowboys, basically, where Virgil Earp was shot and had to move out of the town. And then his name escapes me now. Bill Paxton's version of the Earp. Why can't I think of it? Whichever character. Why can't I think of his name? I'm frustrated. I'm so frustrated. Hold on. I got to know this. Hold on. We're figuring this out. Why can't I remember his name? Not Billy. Morgan Earp. Morgan Earp gets shot and killed one night. So Morgan gets shot and killed. Earp gets shot. Virgil Earp gets shot. Then it's just down to Wyatt Earp and Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. A lot of stuff to summarize here. Sorry, folks. So it's down to them. They end up recruiting a bunch of their friends, Creek Johnson, and a few other people, McMasters, and they end up going on a revenge tour. They're like, okay, you want to kill one of my brothers? You want to shoot one of my brothers? We're back. We're taking you down. This is it. You wanted a battle. You got a battle. And they end up just taking out the Cowboys forever. Save the day. Save Tombstone. And that's all she wrote. All right. Next up is number 20. The third and final Arnold Schwarzenegger movie on this list. The second James Cameron movie on this list. Arnold Schwarzenegger as an under the radar secret sector special agent for the United States, the last line of protection in the United States government, a secret agency. His wife is Jamie Lee Curtis, and this movie is all about terrorism. What's shocking about this movie for me is I actually watched this movie I hadn't seen it in a long time at the time, but I was actually watching this movie on Sunday afternoon on September 9th, 2001. That's Sunday. I was actually watching it 2 days before 9/11, and then 2 days later, I just happened to be like into terrorist movies at that time. And then 2 days later, the biggest terrorist attack of all time actually happened, which is crazy. But True Lies makes my list. And this is an awesome movie. And again, a great counterterrorism movie. Just has basically 3 chapters of the movie. The first movie is him trying to chase down the terrorist. The second movie revolves his wife and her affairs. And the third part of this movie is him trying to rescue his daughter and wife and himself from these terrorists. Great action and a bridge scene that was one of my favorite scenes in movie history. That bridge scene, again, one of my favorite scenes ever, with the bridge getting taken out by the fighter jets to stop the terrorists from getting nuclear warheads into the United States through the Florida Keys. That was awesome. And Jamie Lee Curtis's transition throughout this movie from your typical housewife to on the edge of her seat, hanging from helicopters and firing Uzis and punching people in the face and all that stuff was unbelievable. Unbelievable. So that's number 20. And we're going to go to our 4th count. And then we're going to do 5 more movies than our final count. Let's see what we got. We got at least 10 more dollars in there. We got 10, 5, and 25. Lama Sue's with 25. So 10, 5, and 25. 10, 5, 25. All right. All right. There we go. We're up to $336 raised. $336. All right. And we're down to our last segment here. The final 5 movies coming your way here. That's right. Bill Paxton was also in True Lies as well. All right. Number 21 is Independence Day with Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, Bill Pullman, and Randy Quaid. I watched this movie recently around the 4th of July holiday and realized, wow, I cannot understand why I forgot all about this movie for the longest time, but I rewatched it recently and I was like, wow, this movie's just as good as it was 30 years ago when I saw it. And I couldn't help but realize, I'm like, why did this movie always fall off my radar for? Why did I forget about this movie? Why did I stop watching this movie? I'll tell you why. 9/11. 9/11 killed so many of those disaster movies like Armageddon, Deep Impact. All those movies, disaster movies, got totally, like in the 90s, watching a disaster movie was so great. It was like, oh man, Armageddon, Deep Impact, Independence Day. You know, you wanted to see those kind of movies in the 90s. After 9/11 happened, no, that was not something you wanted to watch anymore. You didn't want to watch New York City get attacked. It was cool in the movies in the 90s. Then after 9/11, when we all got brought back down to reality, it was not so cool anymore. You know, in movies, it's fun. In real life, it's horrible. Horrible tragedy that took place in 2001. And it's hard to believe it's been that long, 24 years. But this was a great movie, a great save-the-day movie. What I like about this movie so much is the way they have so many different heroes, like Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, Randy Quaid, Bill Pullman. They all have different aspects to them. Will Smith's an active duty Marine fighter. Jeff Goldblum's basically a cable repairman. Bill Pullman's the president. Randy Quaid's a down on his luck crop duster that's drunk all the time. And all 4 of them throughout the movie all band together in separate individual ways with other people to save the day. And it's absolutely awesome. So number 21 is Independence Day. Number 22 is Saving Private Ryan with Tom Hanks, Tom Sizemore, Matt Damon, Edward Burns, Ted Danza, and then Vin Diesel was actually in this movie as well when he was an unknown. This is to me the greatest war movie ever made. Black Hawk Down is my second pick, and The Hurt Locker, and what's the movie with Andrew Garfield? The movie with Andrew Garfield as well. Hacksaw Ridge. Hacksaw Ridge is right up there for me too. This is an ultimate war movie. They, like Glamasu's just said, the opening to this movie was nuts on Normandy Beach. This was a must-watch movie back then. It was, like Titanic the year before was like the big epic movie. In 1998, this was the big epic movie. And Steven Spielberg's direction was unbelievable. Unbelievable combat movie. Like Scott just said, realism, the graphicness of it was shocking. Nobody had ever seen graphic violence like to this level in terms of a military movie, but it really told you and showed you how insane being in a war can be. Like a guy getting shot in his helmet with the bullet, taking the helmet off, then getting shot and killed with a bullet a second later. I'm more than sure that happened in real life. I'm more than sure that something like that happened in real life. What was crazy about this movie was that it starts off as Normandy Beach. He kind of did a great way of working in the Normandy Beach scene and then kind of showing you this platoon getting repurposed, these Rangers getting repurposed on a rescue mission. Like your next mission is going to be a rescue mission. We need you to find this Private Ryan, James Francis Ryan, and he has several brothers. They've all been killed, and we need you to find them, locate them, and bring them home to his mom. So this is not like modern day where they have a way to connect with soldiers in a heartbeat, right? They know their location, their whereabouts probably at all times nowadays, right, over the last 20 years. Back then it was, it's an impossible mission. It really is an impossible mission. And they end up happening to find them. And what's funny is it just happens in a circumstance where there happens to be a combat scene against the tank, and Matt Damon happens to show up. And like, James Francis Ryan, yeah, how did you know that? Well, your family's been killed. Your brothers have all been killed. And Matt Damon refuses to go home, wants to fight. And then the end of the movie features another great combat scene about a bridge. And the action's unbelievable. Barry Pepper's fantastic in this movie as a sniper, who's actually a left-handed shooter who operates a right-handed bolt-action rifle, which means you need your right hand to recirculate the ammunition. And this was just awesome. This should have won Best Picture. It's an absolute sham that Shakespeare in Love won Best Picture over this. That's something I still to this day piss and moan about. But this absolutely was the Best Picture that particular year. So that's number 22. Number 23, what is The Matrix? What is The Matrix? This is one of the ultimate action sci-fi movies ever made, without question. This is another one of my favorite movies ever made, without question. This is kind of like what the Terminator 2 was to the 90s, early 90s. This was to the late 90s in terms of revolutionizing action movies. This was unbelievable. And again, it stars another story. It just starts off with a total underdog, trapped in a world he doesn't understand, not realizing he really lives in a computer system and he's plugged in from the real world. And, he finds out that his whole life has basically been a computerized lie. And he gets unplugged and learns that the real world actually takes place about 100 years into the future in a scorched world taken over by machines, which is extremely horrifying for him and would be extremely horrifying for any one of us to wake up one day and find out our whole reality was an entire lie. But this is a great story of him kind of learning about what the Matrix is, learning about being the one, and then kind of developing his ability to, become so good that he can stop bullets at the end of the movie. He ends up dodging bullets at one point. Bullet time, as the guy in The Matrix 4 says. I liked all four movies, honestly. The third and fourth one are a little lackluster, but I think they're good overall. The second one is great action-wise. The second one, Matrix Reloaded, holds up action-wise to the first movie. I just think story-wise it's kind of lackluster. But this movie, the first movie, it's ranked very high on Internet Movie Database, 16th all time, and is absolutely fantastic. And love the action in this. Keanu Reeves is another one of my favorite actors. Love him in the John Wick movies, Point Break and Speed, obviously. But this is another groundbreaking, revolutionary movie that gets the job done and does a great job in entertainment as well. Number 24 is The Dark Knight. So we're jumping 7 years roughly, 8 years here, 9 years really, from 1999 all the way to 2008. And only 2 movies from this century actually made my top 25. Because honestly, there's a lot of movies I do like in this century. I just think because of the time frame I grew up being an 80s, 90s person in my more formative years, I think I kind of place more value on movies from the 80s and 90s than I do from the 2000s and the 2010s. This is probably one of my top 5 favorite movies as well. Batman 1989 made this, and The Dark Knight 2008 made this. Both movies feature the Joker. Both movies feature a Batman actor that I consider being a top 2 Batman. And this movie is just phenomenal. This is like Heat turned into an action movie, turned into a comic book movie. It almost feels like a crime movie like Heat with superhero characters plugged into it. That's kind of really how this feels. This movie goes in a lot of directions about humankind and the decisions we make as well. And you ultimately see Batman forced to make a decision at one point between saving Rachel Dawes and between saving Harvey Dent, only where he goes, it's flipped, and he ends up finding out that Rachel was in the opposite location, and that, without, basically he's going to rescue 1 or 2 people. Having trouble explaining, sorry. He has to rescue 1 or 2 people, and he has to decide where he wants to go, and he ends up choosing Rachel, but ends up, when he gets there, finding out the other guy, Harvey Dent, was there, and Joker played a trick on him. He ends up saving Harvey Dent. Rachel ends up dying. His beloved childhood friend and former lover ends up dying, which is absolutely wild stuff. But ultimately, this is one of the greatest movies ever made, in my opinion. Should have won Best Picture as well. Didn't. It got nominated, I believe, but did not win. And it should have. Heath Ledger ended up winning an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. He was fantastic in this movie. Some say he's better than Jack Nicholson. I don't agree. I think he's equal to Jack Nicholson. I think Joaquin Phoenix, Heath Ledger, and Jack Nicholson were all equal. I thought they all did great jobs in their performances in all 3 movies, and did a great job. And thought that was a fantastic movie and well done. The action was great. The chase scenes were fantastic. And what sucked was the third one, because Heath Ledger was supposed to be, like JC just said, Heath Ledger was supposed to be in the third one, but that whole plot line got changed because of his death. So it really altered the third movie, The Dark Knight Rises, into something else entirely, which is a shame. It truly is a shame. It's really too bad that he passed away, because I would have liked to have seen him play that role one more time. It would have been very interesting to see how that all panned out, because the movie definitely ended on a cliffhanger. And, they could have maybe kept Two-Face back for another movie, got the Joker back, but it sucks that all ended the way it did. But it was absolutely riveting. I saw this in the movie theater twice. All right, number 25. This might cause some controversy, but it's one of my favorite movies. It may not be popular. Fast Five. Fast Five. I consider this for myself kind of a generational movie. This is kind of a generation for me I felt like I was a part of, in terms of, I don't know, being in my 20s at the time, graduating high school in those years, being in college in my 20s in those years, and just watching, this movie, just kind of identified with all the characters. I was lukewarm about the series when it started, loved it in the core of it, like 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then I completely turned on the series. I've hated it ever since. Like 8's okay, 9's horrible. I think there's 10 that came out. I think that was horrible. But I thought that this was the decadence of the entire series. It was just, to me, a well-rounded movie. It wasn't as bogus as the other ones. It wasn't overly serious, but I thought the action and the driving was great. The Rock, Paul Walker, Vin Diesel at the time were all actors we all welcomed. Like Vin Diesel, we weren't all too negative about him as we became. The Rock, we weren't burnt out with him yet. And it was kind of like Schwarzenegger and Stallone in their prime in the same movie, pretty much. And this was 2 years before Paul Walker's death. But for me, what stapled this entire movie was the heist scene, was the 2 Dodge Chargers hauling that bank vault across Brazil like that, being pursued by every cop known to man. And it was just the ultimate action. One of the ultimate chase scenes, I feel, in movie history, quite honestly. It was really, really cool. And I thought the 6th movie was really good as well. But this one, for me, was just awesome. It was summery. It was down in a warm weather climate, below the equator. And that's okay. Yeah, I figured Fast Five would be disagreed with. This is a personal choice for me. It's not going to be a popular pick among many, but those are my choices. But Fast Five rounds off that list. So let's go to our final tally here. Wanted to keep the show around 2 hours. And let's take a look. What we got for final donations. One more $10 donation came in, so we're at $346. $346 is our final total here. 346. That's it. That's going to do it. And that is that. That's our total. You got 345. I got 346. Because we have the $11 in there. So that brings the 340. That's okay. 346. Yep. All right. So that does it. That's our final announcement. $346 for Aiden Carney's Defense Fund, helping him out a bit. Got to talk about movies. I'll be back tomorrow, more than likely, talking about Michael Morsy and a more formal Karen Reed Turtleboy show. But we raised some money here today to help them out a bit. And that is that. So, ladies and gentlemen, from MazzaMedia, thank you for your time. Have a great evening. I thank you guys for tuning in. And that's it. $346 for Aiden has been raised. Thank you guys. Have a great evening. Have a great evening. I got some wings to eat tonight as well. So that should be all right. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. And thank you for your time. Take care, guys. Bye.